Very unexpected situation and unexpected weekend, but we're going to be installing my fuel system that I've had sitting around for a while because I was doing some logging last week, doing some pulls, 12, 14 PSI, and we're actually running out of fuel. This is probably due to it's got an AM 320 liter per hour pump in it, but the stock wiring is probably very corroded, and I'm sure there's a huge voltage drop across that. So I'm going to be showing you guys the log real quick of the injector duty cycle, and then I'll be showing you all the parts that we're going to be using to install this fuel system. And fortunately, I got them all ordered in time and shipped, and we should be able to get this whole thing done this weekend and start doing some 14, 18 PSI pulls, which I'm super excited for because it's really time to start turning this thing up because the oil looks great, the oil pressure looks great, compression's great, the pistons look great, there's no signs of any detonation or anything, and everything's really working out well. Also, I don't think I've ever ran into fuel issues before because I've been on gasoline for all my previous engine builds, and this is the first time I'm really running the 85. So let's get this fuel system in, let's crank this thing up, and maybe we can get her dynoed soon. We'll see. Dynoed at 14, 20 PSI, nothing crazy yet at least. But we pretty much have everything to make full power soon. So let's get to it. So here we're looking at the log. We can see we got RPM in white, KPA in red, and AFR in green. And we can see around 6,800, we're leaning out to 12.2, 13.2. It's probably because it already cut fuel. But if we look at our injector duty, 92, 98, 103, 106. So we're out of fuel delivery. So I did not expect to put this fuel system in this weekend, but I got everything ordered and I got everything here on time. So let's head over to the garage and we'll start seeing what we're going to be putting in. All right, so here's basically what we got for the fuel system. We got a 1 liter surge tank with two Bosch 044s and 8AN to 3/8 outlets. We got a ton of 3/8 hose. It's 10 millimeter inner diameter, 12 millimeter outer diameter. We got a Fuel Lab filter, stainless steel filter with a built-in check valve and a 2-to-1 for the feed. We got some amp wire. This is 8 gauge. It's good shit too. It's not the cheap crap. I spent like $70 on this. You can see it's got some good cable. So that's gonna be able to handle the current. I think each of these draw like 15 or 20 amps each at maximum load. So I'm gonna run this inside the car from the battery inside to the trunk, and then in the trunk's gonna be all the relay stuff. I got all the harness here. So I actually bought this off Hussein Holland. He had the legendary XC70 wagon that made like 500 or 600 all-wheel horsepower. And then I'm just waiting for 2 components to come in the mail. It's a 5/16 compression fitting to 3/8 barb, and that's going to go into the stock pump. And then this also includes a new relay. This relay is a new relay for the stock pump. So I bet the voltage drop going to the stock pump is massive, and that's why we're running out of fuel so early. But I'm going to pull that cover off and everything, and I'm probably going to have to drop the tank, and then I'll show you guys where I'm putting the fuel cell, or the surge tank. It's going to be right under here, and then I'm probably going to put the filter right around here, and then run the lines up under the stock sheathing and everything. And I also ordered some fiberglass like fuel line sheathing that I'm going to put over it. This stuff's pretty thick, and I don't really think it's going to get nicked or anything, but maybe just to protect from heat. So I'm gonna pull that cover off, get the car up, and start showing you guys what I'm doing. So I decided to remove the gas tank first. There's basically your ABS wires, your fuel level sensor, and your fuel pump wires. You just gotta disconnect those. And then there's 2 Torx bolts here that hold the oil, or the gas filler neck in there. And then there's straps underneath the car. So I'm gonna use my dolly over there to kind of rest the tank on and undo the straps. So I got the gas tank out. It was actually so easy with the lift. This thing rocks. I'm so glad I built this. But yeah, I just had to disconnect the fuel lines, disconnect the lines from here, disconnect the lines from here, and then there were just 3 bolts for the whole tank. So yeah, you can see that they join here, and then there's 2 other bolts over there. But yeah, that really wasn't that bad. And the filler neck, you really don't even have to remove these 2 Torx. It just slides through the thing. So I don't know why I removed those, but this is out, so that's awesome. So I'm gonna start probably mocking up where I want to put the sending unit. But yeah, I'm really happy I got this out. That was really easy. All right, so I got the surge tank mounted. You can see I just have some M8 by 125 Allen bolts going down. Then if we go under, you can see it's mounted up there real nicely. And these are nylon nuts, so they're not gonna vibrate off. And you can see I got 2 over there, so I got 4. This thing is solid. Like I'm shaking the whole car, it's not going anywhere. So then basically I can run these 2 lines. Maybe I'll put the filter around here somewhere, or maybe I'll put it up there near the stock location. You can see I got the gas tank out. And then basically the feed from the main pump's just gonna loop around into here, and the return will loop around into here, and then the stock return from the rail will also come into one of these top ones. So, and then the wiring is gonna come through here. There's a grommet right here that I can cut out and have the wiring hook up to the pump. So this worked out perfect. So I really like that. See, we got a clear shot up to the front. So here you can see I'm starting to remove the stock fuel line sheathing. There's just some flathead screws that you undo. It's not very long. And then the whole thing kind of just pulls down. It's pretty disgusting how much junk is in here. But yeah, I'm gonna try and reuse this because it shields the fuel lines nicely. So I'm gonna get that down and start yanking out the stock fuel. All right, so here's how basically I do my 3/8. Well, this is 5/16 or quarter actually. The stock lines are quarter or 5/16. This is how I convert to 8AN lines up front, going from this. So I got these 3/8 MPT to 3/8 barb, and then I basically just got to pull these old ones off that fit the stock lines and put these new ones in, and just look at the difference. Like, that's quite a crazy difference in fuel line size. Wow. This almost, yeah, that basically fits in there, you can see. So the lines won't be any restriction, and the dual 44s are gonna work great. So I'm gonna unscrew these, throw on some thread sealant and screw in the new ones, and we should be good to go on that end, and we can probably start running the line soon. I got all the stock ones out, and now you can see we basically got no fuel lines. This is just the EVAT. And then you can see you got my 8AN lines right here that are just unscrewed. So I'm gonna go ahead and replace those with the new barbs, and we can start mocking up the fuel lines. Working on the fuel filter setup, and I basically bought these, I guess you can call these U-clamps, and I kind of cut them and bend it to make it so that it snaps on. So you can see it snaps on nice. And then basically I'm just gonna use machine screws to secure this to the chassis. And this one should snap on as well. Yep, snaps on real nice. So I'm gonna throw that in, and I'll show you guys what this looks like. So I got the fuel labs secured right close to where the stock one went. It's kind of on an angle because the pipe has to come off here and go right under this carriage, so I don't want there to be a sharp bend. And also it's on an angle because of this Y piece. And you can see I want ample clearance between you know, here and here, so that this doesn't get potentially crushed or anything. So looks pretty good. Let's screw this on. Trying this one-handed. Come on. There we go. Oh. And down. Let's try this again. Come on, guys. There we go. So you can kind of see, you know, I wanted some decent clearance between here and here because this, when it's on the ground, actually goes up. So that looks pretty good to me. I'm pretty happy with that. And then we got our box back there all mounted up nice and secure. And then we basically just got to run 2 lines up over this and into here, and then we run our 1 feed forward. So it's Saturday, had a long Friday night getting the fuel filter situated, but you can see I got the new 3/8 inch lines in the stock fuel rail sheathing that goes under the car. Use some duct tape because it likes to coil, so just to hold it in so I can get that thing up there, because there's no way I could keep those lines in there and screw it back onto the car without those things coiling up and popping out. But I'll show you the deal with the fuel pump, or not the fuel pump, the fuel filter. So I got it situated right here. You can see I had it up a little bit higher where those 2 holes are that I silicone to keep water out. But basically the issue was running the fuel line from here to the chassis. It would kink a little bit here. So now it's a straight shot, no kinking. And also some issues with clearance from here to here. So I fixed all those and we got our feed set up. Might need to shorten this one a little bit. But at this point, I'm just waiting for a USPS to show up with the 5/16 compression fitting that go on here for the feed and return of the stock sending unit. It's a 3/8 inch line. And then basically that's just gonna feed, the tank sits right here is the fuel pump cover. So we're gonna have the feed going into here and the return coming from the tank back into the stock tank. And then the return from up at the rail. And then the feed, is gonna be right there. So we're basically almost done line-wise. Wiring, I got the 8 gauge set up. It's just gonna run through a little grommet that goes through the firewall. There's a stock one in there. And then I'm gonna run it under like the door trim up into the trunk. And then we'll also ground in the trunk and set up all the wiring and relays over here, which I've figured out. I think the other relays in the trunk actually. So yeah, we're moving along. Gonna get this fuel cover on, gonna start buttoning up some of the lines and we can get going. And I also have some more of this rubber sheathing for the fuel lines. And I also bought some like fiberglass stretchy sheathing. That's good for like 1,000 Fahrenheit. So probably gonna use that up front and might use it in the rear a little bit. But you can see in the rear, I already have this on here. I don't have it all the way up here because I just want to protect it from rubbing on the tank or anything. There's really not any heat back here. All the heat's over here with the exhaust. So not really worried too much about this because it's not really going to be seeing anything. And I don't really daily the car either. It's kind of a weekend warrior. And then yeah, you can see I already got my 3/8 shark bite clamps on here. Clamp those down and then getting all these lines situated, guys, and hopefully we can get this thing running by the end of tonight and start tuning it on 14-20 pounds and not run out of fuel. So there you can see I'm starting to finish up the feed. I got some fiberglass sheathing on it and I'm using these pinch clamps, Oiketer clamps, shark bite, Apollo, hex clamps, whatever you want to call them. There's a million companies that make them, but that thing's on there good 3/4 of an inch, so that's not coming off. And then basically just gonna run that up there and hook it up to the 8AN and do the same for the return, and we'll have the front done, and then we just gotta finish up the rear. And I'm gonna check the mail and see if that front end's all buttoned up. You can see we get the lines coming through here, zip tied to this stock piece holder. I broke the clip on it unfortunately, so zip ties are gonna have to do. And they follow up through here, and you can see they connect up here. So really happy with how that came out. Might put some zip ties here to hold the sheathing, but probably not. I think it's fine. So gonna go check the mail and see if the new fittings came. We can wrap up the rear. So while I'm waiting for the mailman, I'm getting some wiring done. This is some 8 gauge wire. And right down here, you can see there's a little piece of conduit and it has this little rubber cap on it. So I just cut off one of these things and I ran the wire through it. And now I'm pulling it through on the inside. It's right around like the clutch pedal is where it pops through, and then you can kind of crawl under there and get it, pull it through. So you can see I'm pulling it through. So I'm gonna keep doing that and get it all in here, and then basically we can pop up this trim, pop up the door piece here, and then just run it, back under the seat and into the trunk. So you can see I'm running this 8 gauge wire, just running it right on the side here, near the rubber rain seal. And then right under the carpet, and the trim pops right on here. And then it pops through back here. You can see right here, and it comes up and out here. And then I'm just gonna run this under the seat, under the rear seat, and then under the vertical seat, and then right into the trunk. And that should work out pretty well. All right, the compression fittings came in. And you can see there's this piece, and then you got the little collar sleeve, that little piece right there. And then this basically goes on there, and then that slides up and tightens down, and that'll pull that down and pull it against the little the sleeve right there, and that'll seal the deal, so to speak. And then this is a 3/8, so let's make sure this fits my fuel line And if it does, I'm gonna be a very happy person, because that means we should be able to get this thing all running this weekend. So please zoom. Yep, that fits in there great. So heck yeah. So I'm gonna get these fittings on, and we'll get the tank back in, and then we can get these lines run and then pretty much finish her up here. All right, so we pretty much got everything hooked up. We got everything clamped down. We got the feed from the stock tank, the return to the stock tank, return from the rail, and the 2 feeds to the rail. So just got to drop the wiring through here, and then finish up the wiring and tighten up a few more up there, and everything should be good to prime it and see if anything leaks. Also got to do these 2 clamps here and tighten those down, but I want to make sure all this over here is tucked out of the way of the suspension. So gonna keep chugging along, and man, this project's a lot. It's been kicking my butt, but everything looks good over here too. And stock sheathing and everything's super clean up here, all shielded. So I'm really happy with how everything's coming out, and hopefully it doesn't leak, but I don't think it will, because I made sure to double check everything. All right, so we're finishing up some of the wiring here. It might look a little sloppy right now, but I'm still finalizing it. So we basically got our 8-gauge power wire going into this terminal block, and then powering the 2 Bosch pumps and powering also the stock pump. So we're no longer using the stock 12-volt wiring for the stock pump to power the stock pump, because that wiring usually gets really corroded and there's a huge voltage drop. So we should have a ton of power to the stock pump now, as well as the 044s. People are going to be like, oh, you should have soldered these. You can't solder this. You can't solder 8-gauge. Like, you just can't. This is the best solution to get maximum contact. And I got a big fat piece of heat shrink over it. And I did the same thing for the grounds. Big, nice terminal block, right? Big, beefy aluminum terminal block going to the Bosch 044 grounds. And then this is the ground for the stock relay, or this relay, and also for the fuel pump. Other things, I got all the triggers set up. So basically everything triggers off of this wire from the stock relay. That triggers this relay and both these relays. And yeah, I'm really happy. I just got to clean some of this up. It looks like a rat's nest right now, but I got my soldering iron in here and everything. But let's give her a little test. So you should be able to hear all the relays click on when I do. I got my test mode on, and I'm basically just going to turn the fuel pump on. So you should be able to hear the relays click on. So that's good. Now let's test out the Bosch 044s. So we got our 8-gauge. Just going to hook it up real quick like that, and then we're going to fire the fuel pumps on in test mode, and we'll hear these puppies. I'm just going to run them for a couple seconds because I don't want to run them dry. Yep. So those work great. Let's make sure none of the wiring's hot. Nope. So happy with that. I'm going to finish this wiring up, and then we'll get power to the stock pump, and we'll run that and make sure the surge tank fills up and doesn't leak or anything. So let's get that done real quick. So unfortunately, I wasn't able to finish up the fuel install. Basically, the O-rings that seal the Bosch 044s into the surge tank are leaking. So I got to order new ones of those, and once those come in, we should be good. And hopefully I can get those in Tuesday, because I was planning on getting the car inspected and aligned on Wednesday. So we'll try and get this done. I guess I'm just gonna have to spend the $20 on next day shipping, which, I mean, it's worth it to me because I really need to get this thing inspected, because I got some big plans for next Saturday that we'll be talking more about if we get this thing, fueled properly.